familiar with this, but it's nice to see some unfamiliar faces, so some of this will be new to you. But as David had in his introduction, I'm Richard Clements, and I was the president of this organization from 2012 to 2017. Thank you, Matt, for taking... But somewhere in the middle of that, this happened. And so the Starwalk has been, I think, a pretty significant creation of this organization to get outreach, permanent outreach installation. And I've noticed that it gets reviews on Google and TripAdvisor, and I've seen people write complimentary things about it. So it is out there, and we do, people know about it. All right. Oh, let me get rid of that thing down at the bottom because that's disruptive. So how did this happen? In the November 2014 edition of Sky and Telescope, I was flipping through it, and here was an article called A Starwalk for Everyone. And I thought, well, now that sounds interesting. And as I read that article, in my brain, all I could think of was, we could do that. That sounds like a BAS thing. There's no reason we can't do that. And at the end of the article, they talk about, we hope the Starwalk idea will inspire many amateur astronomers, stargazers, and perhaps even officials across the world to build similar venues dedicated to the night sky. And I'm like, yes, yes, that's us. And so this is an outfit called Project Night Flight, and they're based in Vienna, Austria. And this is in November of 2014. Well, it turned out that that December of 2014, my lovely wife and I and a group of other folks from our church were planning to take a trip, and we were already booked to be in Austria and spending a couple of days in Vienna.
Divine providence there.
That's right. And so Caroline Mazarek and Erwin Mattis, Project Night Flight, projectnightflight.net, I sent them an email, just completely cold. Hi, my name is, I'm with the BAS, told them a little bit about our organization. I read your article in Sky and Telescope. We want to do this. And before the day was over, I got a response. And they're like, wow, this is amazing. So email. The long and the short of it is, we had a really fantastic opportunity to meet Project Night Flight in Vienna. So Erwin came by. We took some swag. So we took them each t-shirt. And so Erwin picked us up at our hotel, and we rode the U-Bahn over to here and there and all kinds of places. I have no idea where all we went. And we ended up at his apartment where Caroline had tea set up. And I had mentioned at some point, you know, the only caveat is if we do this on the 21st of December, that we need to be done in time because I'd promised Heather Zuckertort at the Zucker Hotel for her birthday, because that was her birthday. They even had a birthday present and birthday stuff for her. I mean, they were just amazing. Erwin could really talk getting the meters out and measuring the light, and he was really getting into the technical stuff. And Caroline wanted to know about Chattanooga and wanted to chat with Heather, and but it was just a delightful time. Now, one of the issues that we had was, well, how are we going to get to Vienna, to the place where this Starwalk is, a town called Großmügel, which is about 30 minutes north. And I had said, you know, can we go up there? Can you give us a ride up there? And Erwin does not drive. Caroline has the car. It's a smart car. And so she's like, no, we'll never get 4 of us in it. We can hardly get 2 of us in it. And so we went back and forth a little bit about renting a car, but they finally said, okay. I said, you know, we'll reimburse you. They said, okay, we'll take care of it. And when we got there, when we got to the apartment building, we noticed a car sitting out front, and I think Heather probably remarked, "I wonder if that's the car they rented." And so we got ready to go, and we went out, and yeah, that was the car they had. It was a Mini Cooper, which granted is bigger than a smart car. And Erwin and I folded up. Erwin's bigger, taller than I am. We folded up into the back seat, and Heather and Caroline were in the front. And she starts to drive that thing. She says, "I've never driven a car this big before." Wow. And all I could think of is this car would fit in the back of my Toyota 4Runner. But anyway, we got up to this town, which is in a little pocket of dark, relative dark, not far from Vienna. And we started our Starwalk. Now, their Starwalk is not a loop. Ours turns out to be a loop. Theirs is out and back again. It starts off in the town, and this is their introductory sign to it. And their signs have both the German, obviously, because that's the primary language there, but they also have it in English for us. And so here at Schillinger's restaurant, which was closed, we were going to have dinner there, but they were on Christmas break or something. The starting point for the Großmüggel Starwalk, it leads you across fields and grasslands to the beautiful Star Meadow. Okay, you'll see that in a minute. At a place called the Lieberg, which is very interesting. And it talks about what the Starwalk is about. Now, the first sign, this is the first station, and it's about light pollution and how the lights are designed. And it was interesting that we got there. There's Heather. It was freaking cold out there too, by the way. I've got another picture that actually shows it, but there was a street light here. But Erwin he was gobsmacked because they had changed the light to a full cutoff light fixture since the last time he had been out there, and that's what this piece of signage is all about. And he's like, "Oh, I've got to make sure I write the mayor and tell him how wonderful this is that he's done that." Now, you go down this road, and then you kind of get on the trail. Their trails are a little more worn than our trail, but this is getting up towards the second stop. Now, where this is in an area of farmland, and the way it works evidently in a lot of these European countries is the farmer owns the land, but where two pieces of land come together, that's a public right-of-way. And that's what their Starwalk is along.
Not an American concept.
And so there are lots of different hikes and different places you can go, and you're just going along the edges of the farmers' fields. And so here is what a typical sign looks like, and we have one not dissimilar to this. That's kind of the area where it is, and then this is what their sign looks like. This is looking out over some of the fields. This is kind of what the area is like, and very little in the way of. Großmüggel is not a particularly big town, and the townspeople got into the spirit of things and were doing things to help keep it dark. This is their end point right here. So at the end of their Starwalk, and yeah, we took our jackets off, and it's like, "Heather, take the picture. Heather, take the picture faster." But they have a big hill. This is the Großmüggel, the big hill. It's an Iron Age mound. It's not a burial mound, but these things dot the countryside. And some of them they've been some excavations, and they find various artifacts. So it's not like a burial mound per se. Back in the 1500s, during the Dark Ages, people went around and put crosses on these things. I don't know, I guess to ward off the evil spirits or something. And everybody's just like, well, whatever. But this is where you end up, and the night was falling. You can see it was fairly cloudy, but as we were sitting at a table, and they had brought tea and some snacks, the clouds kind of parted, and here's Venus showing up in the evening sky at sunset on the winter solstice on this, 3,000-year-old site. And it was Heather's birthday too, and it's a happy birthday. That was so cool. It was just a neat experience. Okay, so when we got done and headed back to Vienna, they said, well, let's stop and get something to eat. And they took us to McDonald's. They said, let's go to McDonald's. And they were very excited about going to McDonald's. We didn't go, we didn't say, oh, no. Folks, McDonald's is holding out on us, because at least the one on the outskirts of Vienna was not like what we experienced. They had a whole pastry bar thing going on, and it's like, whoa. But we sat and talked, and at the end of this, basically they said, anything that we have, our ideas, our signage, our words, how we build these things, everything, it's all yours. Do whatever you want with it. The only thing that they asked us not to use was their artwork, because they had that commissioned, and of course that's only fair. But they were very much, take everything and let's see what you do with it. And so what did we do with it? At the first meeting of the year in 2015, that's what the meeting was. And I gave a program about this was our experience. We need to do this. Let's do it. And all the vote, yak. Yeah, okay. And we had a committee. And so Matt was on the committee, and Tom here was on the committee. Ralph, who is not here. Camby Akers, who's not with us anymore, but she was an important player in this. And Matt Vouter from Harrison Bay State Park. At this meeting, Matt was there, and representatives of Friends of Harrison Bay State Park were here, and they were like, yes, this is great. And so we had their support. Don Campbell was park manager at the time. BAS membership pitched in a lot of different ways. And Myra Adkins, Tom's wife, and Heather, my wife, were extremely important in terms of reading over the copy. They were our copy editors and made sure that the spelling was right and the grammar was good, and that it was at the appropriate level for people who are not necessarily astrophysicists. Okay? And so a lot went into it. Now, we also realized that we didn't have any money. Okay? Jim gives these treasury reports, and we got $3,000 in the bank. No, back in 2015, we had like $700 in the bank. And anytime you wanted to spend any money, it was like pulling teeth. It was nobody, oh, no, we can't. Oh, it's a lot of no, we can't. So we knew we were going to have to get a lot of outside help. And so we really kind of had three major sponsors. Of course, Project Night Flight, that's Caroline and Erwin over in Austria giving us everything. Miller Industries, this is the towing and recovery vehicle manufacturer up in Ottawa, where Ralph was an engineer. Well, I guess he's still an engineer up there because he never has retired. Very important. And Dendy Hill Graphics in Lafayette, Georgia, another pretty important group. With their help and Friends of Harrison Bay State Park, the final BAS outlay for this, once you factor in profit from selling the t-shirts, was probably not more than $500. So we did good. We did good, especially considering what we got. So we knew, since we had a relationship with Harrison Bay State Park, that we were going to do it at Harrison Bay State Park. And Harrison Bay is like, yes, do it here. The question was where. And yeah, we actually looked at a couple of areas, but come on, this was staring us right in the face. This is the walking path right at the entrance. So here is the entrance to the park, and this is the road that goes down to the marina, and that way goes off to the rec hall where we have our star parties. And here we have this already made half-mile looping walking track. It's nice and level. It's got good sight lines, and it was like, yes, this is obviously going to be where it's going to go. And so and this is a Google Map screenshot, and we're on Google Map. It's listed as Starwalk. You click on that, and there's reviews and places where it's linked and all kinds of stuff, which is good. We walked it and talked about, okay, what do we want to have? Where do we want to put things? We wanted to be very intentional about where different things went. Now, some of the stations could be, you know, whatever, but some of them, no. We wanted to make sure that we had a good view to the north when we're talking about the North Star. The first station is about light pollution. Directly across from the park grocery, where they have some 800 million watt lights that they have on in the evening. We thought about things like that. When you take this little loop down here, Tom is like, you know, well, we need to say something about black holes. And, well, that's just kind of like going down into a black hole here. And so that's where that station would go. All of these kinds of considerations that went into what we were going to do. Now, the original Starwalk in Grossmugel had a wooden post. These were more like, I'm not sure they were the metric equivalent of a 4x4. These are these 6x6?
I think they were.
Yeah, these things are beefy. Calm down, Tom. We're going to get to it. I know you saw that. But they had their post. They were using a different system of a printed, like a plate mounted on another board, piece of wood, and attached. We went with something a little bit different, and I think a whole lot better. But they have their logo. We have Cosmo. That's our logo. They have the descriptive illustrations. We have our illustrations. We didn't put any German on here, sorry, guys. But they have their arrows pointing their way to the next station. Well, that's because you need some guidance when you're going in a straight line. Since ours is a circle, so instead of that, and this is before we attached the arrow, we decided to have, well, let's orient people. Which way are they facing? And so we put a compass rose on ours instead of a directional arrow. But we still have our station number. And this is what we came up with. Now, how are we going to build these things? What are we going to build these things out of? And how are we going to put it together? Okay, Ralph, who's in Hilton Head tonight, so sorry he couldn't be.
He's having car trouble. That's why he's not online.
Oh, okay.
He's texted me and told me to tell you.
As I said, he's an engineer at Miller Industries. And what they do at Miller Industries is they take the basis of these big trucks and they turn them into towing and recovery vehicles, which takes a lot of big sheets of aluminum, which they cut and form into the different bits, and what's left over goes into the scrap pile. Basically, the size of this was determined by how many pieces of scrap aluminum we could get from Miller Industries. And of course, Ralph went to them and they're like, yeah, whatever. We got the metal for the signs for free. And this isn't flimsy stuff.
No, that's good stuff.
This is heavy duty stuff. Yeah, I think it's
brand new if you go out there.
yeah, it's 3/8 or 1/4 inch. It's thick. Of course, then you have to get them cut. So Ralph squirrels pieces away to get the size. Now we got to get them cut. Well, they have one of these hydro cutter systems there. And Ralph goes to his friend and says, you know, when you're cutting, so can you do some of these for us? And, sure. And they cut them all out for us. Now, before you can apply stuff to them, they need to be primed. And there's a special primer. And so he talked to the paint guy. Can you, when you're doing some of this, can you do ours? We just wanted one side. Nah, they went ahead and did both of them. And it didn't cost us a dime. Then we had to figure out, well, how are we going to attach it? And that's where Ralph went all engineer on us. And he had a few different designs. But once again, it was, what can we get scrap metal from Miller for? And he came up with the system for mounting it to the post. Okay, so that was one of the major things. But now the next thing is, how are we going to apply this? So Miller, when they get done putting together these trucks and they're painted and whatever, they put stickers on them. But it's not stickers. This is the vehicle wrap. And it's the heavy duty, lasts forever stuff. And they get theirs from a place called Dendy Hill in Lafayette, Georgia. And so Ralph talked to the folks down at Dendy Hill. And they said, yeah, sometimes when we have a run, we have stuff left over. We'll print yours too. But they couldn't do it for free. But we got all of these graphics on all of our signage done for $265. And there are 13 stations, but there were actually 15 signs. So 2 for the beginning, and then there was the one that, there's another one in the middle that just says Starwalk, presented by all of these things. So, man, we made out really well on that.
Did you ever do an estimate or find out if we'd had to just go to different vendors?
No, we didn't want to know. But I'll just go out on a limb here and say we probably saved $10,000 doing this. Yeah, probably 5,000. Yeah, this would have been crazy expensive if we didn't have all this stuff donated.
Yeah, because those were 10-foot tall posts.
Oh yeah, these posts, Friends of Harrison Bay donated those, and the digger to dig the holes.
And that was having some people out there helping digging the holes too.
I missed that. I missed that weekend.
We dug the holes.
Well, yeah, but they brought in.
Jonathan House. All day.
So when we're getting ready to install, so they were out there one weekend putting the posts in, and then Ralph and I and Bobby, were you there when we were mounting the signs? And Matt, it was time to mount the signs, and we had to do some, okay, get the brackets on, okay, we need a saw, we need to cut this different, and we had to tweak it. And Matt thought we needed to have an unveiling, so we covered them up like this. But here's Bobby putting some bolts on there. And what was really funny, so Matt Vaughter, he's our contact, and we tell him what we want to do, and we tell him his ideas, and his response is always, I have to run it by Don Campbell, the park manager. Invariably, he comes back and says, Don says fine. I think Don Campbell said yes, didn't even, whatever Matt came in and asked for, Don said, yeah, whatever.
And he doesn't do that anymore. Let me just say it.
So when we're out here putting this together, he comes by in his pickup truck. What y'all doing? Well, we're setting up the Starwalk. Oh, I said, you want to see this? He said, yeah. And we showed him some of these signs. And his jaw just hit the ground. And he just looked at this and he went, this is what wait a minute. And he went, rounded up people from the office. He found the Friends of the Park were having a meeting, and he dragged all these people out and said, look at what they're doing. This is unbelievable. This is amazing. He'd never seen it. He had no idea what we were doing. But when he saw it, he was extremely happy. And so this is what our view is. Back here in the background, you can see before we've got the sign on that one, the bracket system that Ralph had designed. All right. So it's getting really close, and we're starting to get a little publicity. So here is that clipping if you want. This is an interview that Matt did talking about it. So those words are Matt's. But no, it's just the front page. We don't care about the Renaissance Fair in the back. I was at the T-shirt fellas shop downtown. I learned how to silk screen T-shirts. I got to do something because we were literally doing this as it was getting dark the night before this was going to happen. Because I needed to take those T-shirts. Fellow was really great. He was wonderful, and the shirts have held up very nicely. Okay, so the day of, we had the assistant commissioner for Tennessee State Parks come and give a speech, and Don Campbell said some words, and somebody from BAS had to say words, and it was me. But I had some words to say, and I'll share those with you in just a minute. This does not do justice to the crowd that was there. We probably had close to 500 people show up for this. And I found a nice piece of ribbon that was covered in stars. So we had our nice ribbon. And we had the idea, I think maybe it was Matt's idea, to have the youngest member of the BAS. What's this kid's name again?
It's Jonathan House's son, and his name is Sebastian.
Sebastian.
And
The youngest BAS member and the oldest BAS member. Anybody want to guess who that is? That's Bobby Thompson. And so they together cut the ribbon. Now the plan for that day, it was like one of the hottest days in September. It was really hot. We had solar observing before, we had kind of music going on and stuff. And then we had our unveiling, and then we broke up into groups and took tours, took groups of people around. And we were going to have a big star party that night in this field. Oh boy, some really heavy thunderstorms popped up right at sunset and kind of washed that out. That was the only downer of the whole day. So I've been in touch with Caroline and Erwin over in Austria the whole time. And yes, we sent them a couple of Starwalk T-shirts. We sent them a piece of the ribbon from the ribbon cutting and some of our BAS little red flashlights that we had and stuff, and they were all excited. But they had sent me something, and they said, we would really appreciate it if you could read this statement from us at the dedication. And so, dear fellow stargazers, amateur astronomers, astrophotographers, members of the Barnard Astronomical Society and representatives of Harrison Bay State Park, honored and proud that you were the first to pick up the idea to build a Starwalk. We hope that your fine work will inspire many more to follow your example. It's our dream that one day a whole network of Starwalks will be spread across the world, and that every nation, state, and every community will call one such installation its own. We know, that all people, all children on this earth will be able to enjoy the splendid view of a dark sky covered in stars. Thank you for your pioneering spirit, your hard work, and your willingness to follow our example of the Großmugel Starwalk in Austria. Thank you for your keen endeavor to make this community, your community, to be the first to spread the idea. And thank you for making it real. And we congratulate you on your brave achievement, and in our hearts we are there with you today. May clear skies and dark skies bless the Starwalk at all times. This was really great. All right, so what do we got going on here? Here's our introductory sign. Yes, we got all of our sponsors on here. And then we have a sign explaining how to use it. So this, and a little bit of the history, where this came from, and how to use it. All of the photography is BAS member photography and artwork. And absolute huge shout out. I mean, everybody on the committee worked hard on all of this. And committee members took different topics to do the write-ups. And so this is, Tom did this write-up and weaved in the history. And one of the things we wanted to do was make it not just a dry astronomy, astrophysics thing. We wanted to put as much other interesting stuff in it as we could. But to put it in this form was all Matt and his graphic design skills. And we went through several iterations on these things, but I think what we came up with is absolutely great. Now, I'm not going to read all these to you, but I just want you to see what the different installations are. So talking about light pollution, like I said, we mounted this one right in line with that big light polluter across the field.
But not directly across the street.
But not, yeah, we thought about that.
We didn't think about it.
But we didn't necessarily, but they do turn them off
They do.
at some point in the night. They don't, at least they don't leave them on all
Not
night.
as bright as they used to be.
Really?
Yeah, they've changed it.
But a good map and what the Chattanooga sky glow looks like. And then we went on to talk about constellations. This does not do it justice. When you see this live, you can actually see stars and constellations. We wanted to have a little interesting factoid sidebar for each thing, with just something interesting about it. I don't know why I got this idea, but I did. I wanted to try and find some literature tie-ins for some of these, and so several of them have Shakespearean quotes, but it just adds a little more something to people's experience. And the Grossmugel Starwalk has a similar station. Now, one of the people on the committee just so happens to be a plant ecologist, and he wasn't going to let this go by without having some plants on. Yeah, that's me. So I'm not sure who took. Is that one of yours, Matt? Okay, but these two are mine. I got two pictures on the Starwalk because I wanted a plant plaque. But yeah, you know, people don't realize that. You know, Chris, you're solar powered. Jim, you're solar powered. Amy, you're solar powered. We're all solar powered. And in this field where they're trying to maintain a native grassland, prairie kind of thing, it seemed appropriate. We talk about star distances and try and get people to think in terms of numbers and sizes of things that will just blow their minds. Star brightness, they had a similar station to this in Grossmugel. The idea that just because a star is, you know, some stars are dim because they're far away, and some stars are dim just because they're dim and they're close. And some stars are really bright because they're close, but some of them are really bright because they're so huge, even though they're 1,000 light years away. You got to have something about the North Star because there's a lot of misunderstanding about the North Star. And
As the arrow shows, it faces the left.
Straight up, yeah.
yeah, and red sunsets and sunrises. Everybody enjoys them, but not everybody understands why it's like that. And so this is one that we intentionally have facing west. Like I said, I think this was Tom's baby here. He wanted black holes in here. And so, yeah, we had a perfect place to put it on the trail. And this is something that people hear about, but they may not necessarily, you know, understand. And although you can't see a black hole, you can see Andromeda, and when they come out to star parties, we can show them that, and they can make a connection there. artificial satellites, and this was also one of the stations in Grossmugel, and now this is becoming more and more a thing. And I've seen now 2 Starlink trains, and boy, they get a lot of oohs and ahs at the star parties. But it's like, yeah, but do you realize what that actually represents? Got to talk about Venus, and this is a Bobby Thompson photo of the beautiful crescent Venus, and then a nice conjunction with Venus and Jupiter. And of course, we had to get a transit shot in there because why? You just have to. And explaining, yeah, sometimes it's the evening star, but sometimes it's the morning star, and how it switches places with Jupiter sometimes. And of course, we have to have something about the moon, because that's something that a lot of people can relate to and want to know more about. And then we finish up talking about the Milky Way and seeing the Milky Way and what it means to be part of the universe. So, all right. So this was done, and actually September, I'm sorry I couldn't have been here in September to do this, but this was dedicated in September of 2016, so it's 7 years old now. And Tom has had a suggestion. Since QR codes seem to be the thing, you really started something there, Amy, of putting QR codes on the signs. Now, the original signs over in Austria have QR codes on them, and what those link to is a German audio of what they're looking at. And one of the things that Erwin said when we were having our discussions, he said, I would not do that again. He said, I wouldn't recommend doing the QR code. And I'm like, why? It's a great idea. He says, no, when people are out there at night and they put their camera up to it and it's dark, they have to turn the light on. And they hadn't even thought about that. So that was that. Now, having said that, we don't necessarily need a QR code on every sign. And so you and I kind of talked about that a little bit. Maybe one on the beginning sign. Now, as we were getting ready to do the Observe the Moon night, and Kevin's wanting to do signage and posters and whatnot, and he sent me a mock-up poster about Starwalk. He wanted some information about it. And I'm like, oh yeah, that looks good. Well, it had 2 QR codes on it. So of course, I checked them, and one of them, neither of them had anything to do with the Starwalk. But I didn't realize at the time that it was a draft. I sent him an email. I said, these don't go. He said, I know, I'll fix it. But one of them went to the Jones Observatory story map that Amy and her students had done. And I think that's where that needs to go. That perhaps a QR code on the main sign that goes to a story map, which is a more interactive kind of thing. I mean, we could have it just go to the website and maybe go to a place on the website that has information about the Starwalk, which there really isn't right now. One of the links that Kevin has is to an article in the Tennessee Conservationist, and I'll pass this around, but those guys look familiar.
Publicity here.
So it could go to that, but then I got to thinking about that story map. And Kevin said he would say something to Amy about it. So I said something to Amy about it this evening, and boy, did she get excited, because she doesn't have enough to do.
If we did want to do the audio thing for the stations, instead of having that on each of the stations, at the beginning you could have it bring up a page that has station 1, 2, 3, 4. You click the audio.
I kind of like the idea of having something like that for visually impaired people. So there's a lot of things we can do about,
You
we can do
NFC
with that.
tags these days.
Well, and that's what, have you seen the tags?
No,
There are 4 of them in the, which don't work with my phone,
those
but
don't need a phone or a camera. I mean, they need a phone, but not a camera.
Right.
yeah. So,
There's a bunch of options. I don't know that there may be a possibility of putting an audio file in the story map. I'll look into it, but where someone could choose to listen instead
mhm.
of view, but if they could access both if they wanted. I'll
And-
look into it.
But it would be nice, because a lot of museums and stuff will have like an audio thing, and when you go up to a display, it will have something, and that would be cool and to have. And so, yes, Tom, this is a good idea. And
We put audio tracks out there, we need to get James Earl Jones to narrate.
Yeah.
well, yeah, of course we do.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, well, hey, I'm tight with Neil. Heather and I, we're buds. Yeah.
Another thought I had, I think probably after talking to you, was if we wanted to, we could just, when they, or say looking at site, one on the Milky Way, say,
hmm
we could just have a list of websites they could go to get additional information, ones that maybe we looked at and think would be, a good one to go to,
Mhm.
not too technical, not too fantastic,
The easiest thing to do would be to build out a page or 13 dedicated on our website.
Yeah.
And that's right too. Be easy enough to do.
And then, that could be updated as time goes
Mhm.
by.
Yeah. Yeah, good ideas.
Have we checked to make sure that cell coverage is adequate
It is.
It is, yeah.
out there for
Yeah.
all providers?
Well, I don't know about all of them. I don't know, any place. That's probably-
True that.
T-Mobile works all right, so.
And
Verizon works on it.
have we, I'm assuming we have and extended an invite to our Austrian friends to one day come visit Chattanooga.
Oh, I would love for them to come.
If they're watching online, y'all should come out.
Tell them to rent the expedition.
I should have sent them an email and said, hey, we're going to be live. Here's the link, but I did because it's like 2:00 in the morning there.
I had another thought too.
Okay. Tom has been thinking a lot in the last 7 years, so.
We might just want to have a virtual tour on our website.
And that's kind of where the story map comes in. Okay. Yeah, that's the connect. That was the kind of thought process connection I was making with the story map. All right. Well, that's what I have for you. And if you have not been out there to see it, I probably need to get out there and clean the signs because the birds do perch on them. But the graphics still look
Yeah, I mean,
as good as they did the day we put them out.
out there a couple of months ago, and they still look new, besides the occasional bird spot.
Should our Harrison Bay Star parties kind of be advertising come early for the Star Walk?
We were pretty good about that when we first put it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to visualize it. I mean, is it something you just go through during the day, or do you go through it at night?
Yeah.
Any old time, the
Anytime.
daytime's the best, I guess. I mean,
But can you see it at night? I mean,
not so much.
Well,
because you're talking about
Well,